Today I'm going to show you how to make this cotton crochet table cover. You can also make this much smaller and just make panels. This is perfect for bags and blankets. And of course I made mine into a table cover or a tablecloth kind of thing for my outdoor table. We are using two methods of a granny square. We're going to be using the granny shell, which is your standard granny stitch. And we're going to alternate those rounds with a round of just double crochet into each stitch. For the tutorial, I'm just going to make a small version of this pattern. For this project, I have used the Bernat Handicrafter. It's 100% cotton yarn. I used a bunch of these little skeins of yarn in white, robin's egg, and the pale yellow. You can change colors as often as you want, or you can use sort of a variegated or self-striping yarn and just have one ball and one go for this project. If you change colors, you will have tons and tons of ends to weave in. I find it helpful to weave these in as you go, just so you're not having to do it all at once at the end. I am also using a 5.5mm crochet hook for this project. I will put all of the pattern measurements and information in the description box down below, so check that out if you're interested in how many balls it took me to get this size of a table cover. I will show you the border. It is basically just a shell border. We work a shell, so 5 double crochets into the space in between your shells from the previous last round, and then a single crochet in the next space. And you just sort of alternate that and you get a nice little gentle wave for your border. You're going to start with a magic ring and you're going to chain 3. This pattern starts with a regular shell granny stitch for the first round. So we have our chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. We're going to put 2 more double crochets into that center ring. And that's our first shell. In the corners, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 3 more double crochets right into that ring. So now I've got my 2 shells. We're at another corner. I'm going to chain 2 for the corner, work 3 more double crochets into that ring, we've got 3 corners now. I'm at another corner, chain 2, work 3 more double crochets into that ring. If you don't like using the magic ring, you can always chain 3 or 4 and slip stitch to that first chain, and then you'll create that ring that way. So I'm going to chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 to finish round 1. Try not to split my cotton yarn here. Okay. You can tighten up your center. If you want to keep with the same color, if you're not changing colors, you would go ahead and slip stitch over the next 2 and into that space. If you are changing colors, you can cut your yarn and slip stitch to any space, any corner space. I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn, change colors so you can see what that effect is. You're going to want to start with a slip knot so you can join into any corner. It is worth mentioning that if you continuously work the same way all the way around, your pattern may sort of alter, it may kind of twist, lean toward one side. You can always, once you join, you would want to work back in the opposite direction. So I'm always just going to work in the same direction. That little lean doesn't bother me, but if it does bother you, then you can turn and you would work in the opposite direction. The next row, turn, and you would work, it's almost like working, you're still working around, but you're working by turning, you would be almost working in the opposite direction, and then the next round, if you turn, opposite direction. That kind of keeps your work from leaning to one side, especially when you're playing with these colors. But like I said, it doesn't bother me. Something that might also help is starting in different corners. So I ended here with my first round. I'm just going to start in a different corner. I'm not always going to start in that same corner. See what works best for you. So I'm changing colors now. If you didn't change colors, you'll already be slip stitched over into a space. This round is where we work over top of those double crochets. We're working around into every stitch except for the corners. So to start, we want to chain 5. And we're going to work a double crochet right back into that corner space. And that is our first corner. You have 3 stitches in the middle before your next space, and as these rounds increase you'll have more stitches, but you always want to work into the top of the double crochets from the previous round. So round 1 is the granny shell, round 2 we are double crocheting into each double crochet. So for round 2 I have 3 stitches here, and I'm just going to work a double crochet into each of those. We're at our space. I'm going to work a double crochet into that space. And this is how the corners go. You work a double crochet in the space. Every corner gets a chain 2, whether you're on this round or a granny shell round. The corners always get a chain 2. And then work a double crochet right back into that space. Now we've got 2 corners, 3 more stitches. You're going to do this all the way around. You want a double crochet into each stitch on the side, and then the corners get a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that corner space. When you're at your last double crochet, so I worked my corner, so that corner there, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, 3 double crochets, or a double crochet into the next 3 over top of those 3 double crochets from our shell from the previous row. We already have our corner here, so all we need to do is just slip stitch to that 3rd chain of our chain 5, and that will join the round. I'm going to work 1 more round in blue. If you're changing colors, you would fasten off and start into any of the chain 2 corner spaces. If you're not changing colors, we're going to slip stitch right into that space to start the next round. We're going to alternate the granny shell with the solid double crochet rows. So we just worked a solid double crochet row. We're going to work a granny shell row. And this is how the pattern will go no matter how big or how small you are working this square. We're going to chain 3, and into that same chain 2 space we're going to work 2 double crochets, and that will count as our first shell. We're still in the corner, so we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 3 more double crochets right back into that same space. So no matter what row you're on, you're always starting in the corner. Okay, so I've got my corner there. For this row, after that first initial granny shell row, you've worked your double crochet into each stitch along the side row. we're working a granny shell, so I'm going to skip 2 stitches or 2 double crochets and work in the next. So for these rows where you're working the shell over top of all the double crochets, you always want to skip 2 double crochets and work a shell into the next, which means 3 double crochets into that same stitch. So you're skipping 2 and working 3 double crochets into the next, skip 2, and now we're at a corner. As this pattern grows, you'll have way more double crochets worked on the side. You're just going to skip 2, work 3 double crochets in the next, skip 2, 3 in the next, until you get to that corner. If you have miscounted somewhere, not a big deal. If you end up and you only have 1 double crochet, so you're not actually skipping 2, just go ahead and work your pattern into that space. I do have 2 here, so no worries. I'm going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into the corner. We're skipping 2 and working 3 double crochets into the next stitch. This pattern works up really quickly once you get the hang of it, and it's nice because you really don't have to count other than skipping 2. And if you count or your stitches are wrong from a previous row, it's not the end of the world. You can cheat a stitch or 2 in here and there as you need to. So my corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet all into that corner space. Let's try that one again. Alright. We're on the next side. So we're skipping 2 and 3 double crochet into the next. Skip 2, we're at a space, so I'm going to work, or a corner I should say, we're going to work our 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into that corner space. And I think these little samplers that I'm going to make will be perfect coasters to go along with my cover, my table cover. So we're back on the last side here. This is where we started. We've already got our shell, our last shell done for the end of this row. We're going to skip 2, work 3 double crochet in the next, we have our 2 double crochets here. We already have our shell worked, so we don't have to do anything except for join in the top of that chain 3, that first chain 3 that we did. So that's row 3. If you are changing colors, we're always going to start with a slip knot on our hook and finding any corner space. So I ended here. I'm just going to start up here. So on these even rows, so our granny shells, we're working on our odd rows. So row 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. You're going to work those granny shells where you skip 2, shell in the next, skip 2, shell in the next. For our even rows, that's where we work the double crochet all the way across. So we're starting an even row, slip stitch with that new color. If you're not changing colors, here's where I ended that last row. You would just slip stitch over those next 2 stitches and into that corner space. So you're always wanting to start in a corner space. So once you've slip stitched into your chain 2 space, corner space, the even rows always start with a chain 5. Work a double crochet into that same corner space, and you've created your first corner right off the bat. Now, we have 3 sets of shells that we created for round 3. So for this row, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to work a double crochet over the next 9 stitches. If you don't want to do the math and count every time, you just say, hey, I have 3 sets of granny shells. I'm going to work a double crochet into the first 3. So 1, 2, 3. I've got another set. I need to work a double crochet over that set. So 1, 2, and 3. And hey, I've got one more set. I am going to work a double crochet into each of those 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's just sort of an easy way to know that you have the right stitch count on your sides. You're just working a double crochet into each stitch in each set of cluster or granny shells. When you hit the corner, we're going to work 1 double crochet into the corner space, chain 2, and a double crochet into that same corner space. And then do the same thing, a double crochet into each stitch of those sets of shells. Each corner gets a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Do the same thing for the next few sides, and I will show you how to join at the end. When you get back around, you've already got your double crochet in that corner. You've worked a double crochet over each of those double crochets from the granny shell. You're going to find the top of the 3rd chain from that chain 5 and just slip stitch, and that joins the round. I'm going to work one more round, which will be an odd round and a granny shell round, because you want to end on that granny shell round before you put your border on. So let's work one more granny shell round, and then I'll show you the border. As always, we start with a slip knot on our hook. Find any corner space and join with a slip stitch. We're going to chain 3 and work 2 double crochets right back into that space. Chain 2 to get around that corner and work 3 more double crochets right back into that space. We're going to skip 2 double crochets, find the top of the next, and work 3 double crochets into that stitch. Skip 2 and 3 double crochets into the next. Skip 2, 3 double crochet into the next. At the end of the row, you should have 2 stitches left. Like I said, if something went wrong somewhere, don't worry, no need to take everything apart or try to find it. If you only have 1 stitch left, just work your shell, your corner right away. You don't need to take everything out. I have 2, so I'm going to work my corner which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet into that same space. So work this pattern around, and then I will come back and show you how to put on the border. At the end of this round, you should have 2 double crochets here. We're just going to find the top of the chain 3 and slip stitch. I have cut my yarn, fastened off, and now we can put the border on. For the border, you're going to want to start in any space. If you're not changing colors, you can just slip stitch over to that space, or if you are, slip stitch into any corner. Grab your new yarn, your border color yarn, put a slip knot on your hook, grab your square, starting in that corner, we're just going to slip stitch, and that will join our new color. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to work 6 double crochets into that space. So the corners all have 7 total double crochets. This first chain 3 for the first corner counts as one of those. So we're going to work 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need one more. We're going to find the next space, and we're just going to work a single crochet into it. Find the next space and work a fan, 5 double crochets. Find the next space and single crochet. Next space, fan. When you get to the corner, you're going to work 7 double crochets. There is side 1. We're going to do the same thing on this side, starting with our single crochet into the next space in between those shells. Find the next space and work a fan. Next space, single crochet, next space, fan. All the way down in each corner, you're going to work 7 double crochets. So work this border pattern around, and I will meet you at the end, and we will join and finish the square. At the end of this round, you've just worked your last shell or single crochet. We're going to find the second chain, so right about there. You can kind of guesstimate it and just slip stitch, and you've joined your border round. So here is what the little sampler looks like of our square. We've got our granny shells on every even round, and our double crochet solid rows on each even row. We end with a border after a shell or an odd row. You can put your border on, just a nice little wave. Now if you're making these squares to put in a bag or something modular where you want to crochet a bunch together, you can leave the border off. Really fun, quick, easy project. I love how it works up. I love alternating those 2 granny style stitches. You get a really unique pattern. I really like how fast the granny shell stitch works up, but I didn't want a lot of open spaces. I wanted some solid space to cover that table a little bit, and this was a perfect mix of both. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you like the pattern. Until next time, happy crocheting everyone. Bye.